My girlfriend put me on the layoff list to please her lover. I became the laughingstock of the entire company, cheated on and kicked to the curb. But they forgot that I was the one who brought in all the company's project contracts. After I left, she struggled and went bankrupt due to a breach of contract. But I transformed and returned as the heir to a billionaire, acquiring her prized company at a low price. She knelt and begged to get back together, but I found her repulsive. Last night's clients were difficult. To get this big deal, I was forced to drink alcohol to the point of alcohol poisoning by them. Afraid that Ashley Johnson would worry, and even more afraid of disturbing her beauty sleep, I didn't even dare to tell her, and went to the hospital alone after signing the contract. After waking up in the hospital, the discomfort in my stomach hadn't subsided, and the phone on the nightstand was ringing incessantly. David Smith, you are on the layoff list. Please go to the office as soon as possible to complete the resignation procedures. The HR supervisor sent me a message on WeChat at 11 o'clock, and I received the layoff list in my email at 8:30 as soon as I got to the workplace. Looking at the company's group chat, it had already exploded, with over 999 plus messages. Many employees I recruited also sent me messages asking what was going on. Yeah, I wanted to know what was going on, too. As one of the founders of the company, how did I end up on the layoff list? Year-end layoffs are inevitable. After all, every company has some people who slack off, goof off, and just collect a basic salary. Ashley Johnson and I founded this advertising company 5 years ago. It's not very big, with only a few dozen people in total. People make mistakes. A few old-timers were quite active when they were first recruited, but over time, they became lazy. Not only was their work efficiency low, but they were also often late and left early, and watching dramas and playing games at the workplace was the norm. Our small company can't afford idlers, so we can only rely on year-end layoffs and recruit new people at the beginning of the year to refresh the team. Considering that there isn't much business at the beginning of the year, we have a whole month off for Christmas/New Year, and we still pay the minimum basic salary. So, year-end layoffs are the most cost-effective way to save company expenses. Ashley Johnson and I discussed it and drafted a preliminary list, planning to announce it the day before the company holiday party. Afraid that the people on the list would be unwilling, and also considering that we were colleagues, I suggested that they attend the company holiday party before leaving. After all, the year-end bonus will be announced, and a lottery will be held on the day of the company holiday party. To motivate people, the year-end bonus is transparent and distributed on the spot. I swiped through the group messages a few times and realized that Ashley Johnson didn't do what we had initially discussed. Several people on the layoff list were replaced, leaving a few cronies that Chad Thompson, the manager of Project Department 2, had recently recruited, and replacing them with a few pillars that I had personally recruited, who had been with me for 3 years and were willing to work hard. And those who were laid off had to complete their resignation this morning. Today only counted as half a day's salary, and this year's year-end bonus was all deducted. In addition to the statutory severance pay, no other compensation was given. After roughly understanding the situation, the pain in my stomach became more obvious, and even my chest started to hurt. It was purely out of anger. Ashley Johnson, what the hell are you doing? I called her, but there was no answer. Helpless, I could only leave the hospital early and take a taxi to the company. As soon as I stepped into the company's door, I felt the change in the atmosphere. Colleagues who used to greet me when they saw me now walk around me. When I greeted them, they pretended not to see me, as if I were some kind of monster. I walked straight to Ashley Johnson's office door, and as soon as I pushed it open, I saw a scene that blew my mind. "What are you doing?" I shouted in anger, rushed up a few steps, and punched Chad Thompson in the face. Ashley Johnson and Chad Thompson were kissing in the office, their clothes disheveled. If I had come a few minutes later, would they have taken off all their clothes? The bright red marks on their necks deeply stung my eyes. Ashley Johnson, how dare you? Chad Thompson was caught off guard by my punch and crashed into the bookshelf, and the things on it fell to the ground with a crash. After he came to his senses, he wiped the blood from the corner of his lips and looked at me with a hateful look in his eyes. David Smith, how dare you hit me? Do you want to die? Ashley Johnson stood side by side with him, looking distressed as she stroked the wound on his face, and turned her head to look at me fiercely. David Smith, what are you doing? Apologize to Chad. Before yesterday, the way she looked at me was still gentle and loving, but today she looked as if she was possessed. There was no trace of love in the way she looked at me. My heart skipped a beat, and my tone became a little heavier. Ashley Johnson, you're my girlfriend, and you're doing this kind of thing in the office, and you're asking me what I'm doing? In the past, I never wanted to be harsh to her, and I didn't even want to speak loudly to her. Even when she squandered all the money when the company earned its first pot of gold, almost causing us to go bankrupt, I didn't scold her. In my heart, her position was above everything else. I thought she would be ashamed, but she still looked resentful. Didn't I call you last night to break up? You didn't object at the time, and even agreed. We're no longer together, and it's none of yo. You are business what Chad and I do. Break up? When did she tell me that? Seeming to see the confusion in my eyes, she took out her phone and played a recording of a phone call. David Smith, let's break up. Okay. The voice in the recording was indeed me and her, and looking at our call history, it was indeed at this time. My mind was a little confused. At that time, I seemed to have been forced to drink by clients, and after receiving the call, I didn't even hear it clearly and responded vaguely before hanging up the phone. I wanted to explain, but seeing the hostile look on their faces, I swallowed the words that came to my lips. I can accept Ashley Johnson's extravagant spending, and I can also accept her pampered princess syndrome of not lifting a finger, but I absolutely can't accept her betrayal. In my eyes, there is no room for a grain of sand. I will mercilessly remove anything dirty, no matter how much I like it. Okay, even if we broke up, what about the layoffs? Ashley Johnson, we founded this company together. What right do you have to lay me off? She sneered, took a contract from the desk behind her, handed it to me, and looked smug. This is our 3-year advertising contract with Sunny Group, and the profit from this big deal is as high as $10 million. David Smith, this is a big deal that you've been working hard on for 3 years, drinking until you have a stomach bleeding and still can't sign. I took the contract and looked at it. The signature and official seal on it were indeed from Jianghai. 10 million is nothing more than a drop in the bucket for Jianghai's advertising spending, but how could Jianghai take a fancy to our small company? How did this contract come about? Ashley Johnson took Chad Thompson's arm, and the smile on her face widened. Of course Chad signed it. Don't you know? Chad is the newly recognized heir to Jianghai. At this moment, my heart fell to the bottom. So Chad Thompson was the heir to Jianghai, who had been living outside. What else didn't I understand? These two were probably already together. The breakup was not a whim, but a choice that Ashley Johnson made after weighing the pros and cons. Even if he's the crown prince, what does this have to do with laying me off? Ashley Johnson covered her mouth and chuckled, looking at me as if she were looking at an ant that overestimated itself. A mountain cannot accommodate 2 tigers. It's enough to have Chad in the company. We find you an eyesore. Is that reason enough? David Smith, don't worry, we'll follow the labor law for your compensation. I won't give you a penny less. Hurry up and complete the resignation and take the money, and get lost. I clenched my fists. When the company was founded, to give her enough security, she was listed as the legal representative. All the registered capital was in her name, and I didn't even want a single share. At that time, I was determined that we would be together until the end. Since we are a family, what's mine is hers, so why bother dividing it so clearly? I didn't expect that my unreserved love for her would be exchanged for such an ending. The good things I did for her in the past have become the knife that stabs me today. Ashley Johnson, you can lay me off, but why are you deducting all the benefits that were promised to the laid-off employees? The year-end bonus is what everyone deserves. Aren't you being a little too greedy? And Peter, Henry, and the others have been conscientious and diligent since they joined the company, and their work efficiency has always been among the best in the company. What is your basis for laying them off? After all, it was a company that I had built up with my own hands, and I couldn't bear to see it fall into Ashley Johnson's hands. The people who were laid off could be said to be responsible for most of the company's work, and they were all the main people in charge of each department. Without them, the company would have a hard time. I am maintaining normal operations. Since the company got on the right track, Ashley Johnson rarely paid attention to the company's employees. Most of the time, she was only responsible for signing and receiving guests, acting as a useless mascot. She couldn't tell who was useful and who wasn't at all. Those few mute people can't even squeeze out a few words like a gourd, so I laid them off because they annoyed me. Is there a problem? The company is mine, I can lay off whoever I want, and it's not like I can't afford to pay. Ashley Johnson looked disgusted, as if those people were that. Chad Thompson hugged her and smiled provocatively at me. You can't even protect yourself, and you're still thinking about the people you recruited? You're loyal, Ashley. Let's lay off a few more people and fire all the people he recruited, to avoid leaving future troubles for the company. It just so happens that I have a few friends who just resigned and are unemployed at home. I'll call them over, and the company will still operate. The two hit it off and called the HR supervisor in front of me, and after reporting a string of names, the HR immediately drafted a new layoff list and sent it to everyone in the company's email. This operation made my scalp tingle with anger. Two people who don't know anything, this company is probably not far from bankruptcy. I didn't say anything more, packed some personal belongings, and went to complete the resignation. Along the way, the others in the company looked at me with sympathy. The people under Chad Thompson were even ruder to me, and even poured coffee on me. Oh, Mr. Jiang, oh no, David Smith, I'm so sorry, this coffee has its thoughts and just likes to stick to trash. His sarcastic words were annoying. I put down the wet cardboard box and approached him with coffee stains all over my body. In his gloating eyes, I bent down and picked up the mop bucket on the ground and poured it directly over his head. This dirty mop what? Or also has its thoughts and likes to give dog poop a bath. Tisk, it's not so smelly after being washed with dirty water. Not satisfied, I turned the bucket in my hand upside down on his head, and before he could react, I carried the cardboard box out of the company's door. Behind me came a gasp and an angry scolding. Entering the elevator, the people inside the glass door looked at me in surprise, their eyes full of disbelief. Yes, in these 5 years at the company, I have always been polite and friendly, and my temper is so good that everyone thinks I am easy to talk to. No one had ever seen me like this today. But this was originally my most authentic appearance. As the founder of the company, I naturally had to maintain my self-cultivation towards my subordinates. After all, I had to set an example. But now, I have nothing to do with the company, so why should I continue to pretend? As soon as the elevator door opened, a group of people surrounded me, all of whom had just been temporarily laid off. Mr. Jiang, Ms. Lin is too much. What is that, Chad Thompson? Why did he kick you out? Because of that one big deal, they denied your 5 years of effort. We feel it's not worth it for you. Mr. Jiang, what are your plans next? Why don't we start a new company? I really can't swallow this. Everyone was talking at once, and the security guard at the door kept looking over here. I cleared my throat. I understand everyone's feelings. You guys go home and put your things away first, and I'll book a private room at the Sunnyvale Grand Hotel tonight. Let's have dinner together. Under my persuasion, everyone left. Standing in front of this office building, my feelings were complicated. I participated in everything about this company, from the selection of the location to the present. Rather than saying that this is my 5 years of hard work, it is better to say that this is a child that I have raised for 5 years. I thought I could leave very calmly, but it was. And until this moment that I realized that I still couldn't let go. Since things have come to this, I can only leave and make plans in the long run. In the evening, Ashley Johnson saw us when we entered the hotel. The original hotel for the company holiday party was the Grand Hotel, but I didn't expect Ashley Johnson to change even this. This was a narrow escape. She mocked us for a while, but I retorted to her with ease. At the dinner table, the speeches and cheerful noise from next door reached us. The lottery prizes had increased, and almost everyone who stayed had a share. The people on my side were emotional and even wanted to rush to the next room to make a scene. Mr. Jiang, they're bullying us too much. They're using our year-end bonus to throw money around. They're eating human blood buns like this, right? My face also darkened, but I still calmed them down. But some people always want to show off their presence. Ashley Johnson and Chad Thompson pushed open the door to our private room. Oh, a group of stray dogs, are you having a farewell dinner? Counterattack slap in the face. The faces of my colleagues weren't too good, and Annie, who had the most fiery temper, had already rushed up and poured a glass of wine over Ashley Johnson's face. Chad Thompson, who was holding her arm, was also affected, with a large wine stain on his white suit. Ms. Lin, I saw that you didn't wash your face when you went out today, so I kindly washed it for you. You wouldn't repay kindness with ingratitude, would you? Ashley Johnson's face turned pale with anger. She had never suffered such grievances when I was protecting her. Even if she was rude at a cocktail party and angered the wealthy daughters, causing them to get angry and pour wine on her, I would be the first to block it for her, so as not to embarrass her in the slightest. All the bad reviews about her from the outside world were refuted by me one by one. She was always the little princess protected by me. Now that the person beside her was no longer me, with her personality, she was afraid that she would offend many people. I just didn't know if Chad Thompson, whom she had firmly chosen, would protect her. I looked at the two of them with great interest, without saying a word. Chad Thompson immediately went ballistic and quickly took out the silk scarf from his chest to wipe his suit. Annie, are you crazy? Do you know how expensive these clothes are? You can't afford it with a month's salary. Ashley Johnson also saw the wine stains on her chest after reacting, and was so angry that she was about to slap Annie. Bitch, this is a limited edition gown from 7th Avenue that I asked a friend to buy for me. Can you afford to pay for it? How could I let my people be bullied by her? I immediately stood up, grabbed her wrist, and said in a cold voice, Ashley Johnson, this is my place. If you want to cause trouble, go back next door. You can dry clean clothes of this brand. I'll pay for the dry cleaning. Hurry up and get out. Don't disturb our dinner. She looked incredulous, and her eyes turned red. The other hand slammed towards my chest, and her tone was a little hysterical. David Smith, you're standing on the opposite side of me to protect this bitch, and you're even scolding me? Have you been having an affair with her for a long time? She threw herself into my arms without any scruples, just like when we were still together. She would act coquettishly in my arms. For a moment, I thought she still had me in her heart, so she would ask such a question. However, the next second, she slapped me. You two poor losers are a perfect match. David Smith, you're disgusting. I grabbed her other hand, stared at her, and suddenly laughed. I shook my head and pushed her back in front of Chad Thompson, and said mockingly, a person with a dirty heart sees everything as dirty. Ashley Johnson, These 5 years, I'll just treat it as if I fed my true heart to a dog. From now on, we'll cut ties completely and have nothing to do with each other. There was a moment of panic in her eyes, which I caught, but I didn't care. Even if she still had a place for me in her heart, it was half-hearted. Such a woman doesn't deserve my love. She still wanted to rush up, but was held back by Chad Thompson. Enough, Ashley, we still have serious business to do tonight. The company holiday party next door is still waiting for us to host it. Some of the company's staff had already gathered at the door, and they were all craning their necks to look inside. Perhaps out of consideration for Face, the two still left the private room. With the unwelcome people gone, our side returned to happiness. Annie, you're really brave. You dared to pour wine on Ashley Johnson, her face, ha ha ha, I'm dying of laughter. Annie raised her chin, with a bit of pride. She's already laid us off. Who cares who she is? I originally planned to get a year-end bonus and resign after Christmas/New Year to go back to my hometown, and I don't plan to work in this industry in the future. Even if Chad Thompson is the heir to a billionaire, so what? Can his hand reach the public institution in my hometown? I was a little surprised. Annie had mentioned that she wanted to go back to her hometown and follow her parents' arrangements to work in a public institution. At that time, I thought she was joking, but I didn't expect it to be true. Then she didn't lose out on being laid off, and even made a profit. Annie, congratulations. Although I was a little reluctant, since this was her decision, I chose to respect and bless her. This dinner party became Annie's farewell party. Everyone knew that I was alcohol poisoned last night, and they wouldn't let me drink anything, so I was the only one drinking juice the whole time, and in the end, I also took on the responsibility of taking the girls home. A total of 10 people were laid off this time, including 4 boys and 5 girls. 3 of the girls were renting together, and another girl's boyfriend came to pick her up, so in the end, there was only one Annie who was drunk. I helped her into the car, and when I was fastening her seat belt, she suddenly hooked my neck. Her warm breath sprayed on my face, and the atmosphere seemed a little off. I wanted to pull her hand away, but she hugged me even tighter. Mr. Jiang, I know you're sad. I understand you. There's no one else here now. If you want to cry, just cry. I won't laugh at you. She raised her small face, with stars in her eyes. Usually, she wears black-framed glasses and a high ponytail, and she's the kind of rigid and fiery girl with a contrast. Tonight, she took off her glasses, and her hair was also let down, and it was that kind of slightly curly hair with a bit of femininity. Looking at her up close, I realized that she was very beautiful, with delicate features that were unreal, even more beautiful than Ashley Johnson, who was a recognized campus belle. For a moment, I was stunned. She suddenly held my face in her hands, with a sincere expression. Mr. Jiang, I joined the company for you. I came back to my senses and subconsciously wanted to push her away, but she hugged me even tighter. David Smith, I like you. Her beautiful eyes, like stars and the sea, almost shook my mind. I increased my strength and pulled her off me, fastened her seat belt, and drove the car. Even after I sent her home, my heart was still a little messed up. This wasn't the first time I had been to her house. Last time it was her birthday, and she invited a few colleagues over. I familiarly carried her into the room, and after settling her down, I turned my head and saw the photo frame she had placed on the bedside. Is that me? I put down the photo frame, took a deep look at her, and turned to leave. She should have better choices and shouldn't delay herself for me. After this farewell, we probably won't have any contact again. The other laid-off colleagues were all preparing to go back to their hometowns early for Christmas/New Year. With their workability and qualifications, it wasn't difficult to find a new job. The reason they had stayed here for the past 2 years was because of their relationship with me. I'm a local from the countryside, and it's not easy to find a job at this time of year, so I can only go home. I also wanted to give myself a vacation. After all, in these 5 years, to save enough money to marry Ashley Johnson as soon as possible, I worked desperately and had almost no free time of my own. Ashley Johnson had already moved out of the rented house we shared. She didn't take any of our shared items, only some personal belongings. All the bags and jewelry I had given her in the past were also left behind. Out of sight, out of mind, I put all these things on eBay classified/offer up to sell, which could be considered a little bit of my capital back. After emptying the things, I realized that I had so few things. In the beginning, we changed from a small single room to a 1-bedroom apartment, and finally to the current 2-bedroom apartment. Ashley Johnson always said that the house wasn't big enough and couldn't fit all the things. Most of them were her things. But the lease for this rented house was still 3 months away, so I had no choice but to put up a listing for a roommate on eBay classified/offer up. As soon as I put it up, someone asked about it, and we made an appointment to see the house tomorrow afternoon, but I had already promised my parents that I would go back tonight. Helpless, I could only ask the landlord downstairs to bring people to see the house. Embarking on the journey back to my hometown, I felt a little apprehensive about getting close to my hometown. My parents have always been biased towards my younger brother. In recent years, because I partnered with someone to start a business, earn some money, and had a girlfriend from the city, they have treated me differently. If they knew that I was unemployed and heartbroken, I don't know what their attitude would be. When I got home in the evening, the atmosphere seemed a little off. My younger brother, Daniel Brown, opened the door, and my parents were sitting on the sofa with cold expressions on their faces. Daniel Brown had a look of someone watching a good show on his face. "Dad, Mom, I'm back." They didn't respond, and didn't even give me a look. I called out again and handed them the gifts I had bought for them. My mother, who couldn't take her eyes off gifts in the past, only glanced at them today and threw them aside. My father didn't even look at them and threw them directly at his feet. "David Smith, we know about your affairs. We wanted you to put the company in your brother's name in the first place, but you refused. Now you've lost both your money and your woman. Are you happy? Are you satisfied? Do you think that your dad and I are just trying to harm you?" I lowered my head. They had said these words every year since I started my business. When I was applying for a business license, they called me back home and forced me to put the company in Daniel Brown's name. That time, we almost broke off our relationship, but in the end, Ashley Johnson took out $100,000 from our startup capital to repair my mother's house, which calmed them down. Ashley Johnson knew how to coax people. As long as things could be solved with money, it wasn't a big deal in her eyes. I would feel bad spending money myself, but I was happy to spend money on her, so my relationship with my family had improved somewhat in the past 2 years. They all thought that I had found a girlfriend who was easy to control, and they all thought that these gifts were paid for by Ashley Johnson herself, and I didn't expose it. "Mom, who told you?" My mother looked resentful. Of course it was that little bitch, Ashley Johnson. "David Smith, what kind of girlfriend did you find? We were all deceived by her if for. She even dared to scold me as an old hag, ugly and troublesome, and said as many nasty things as she could, and had no upbringing like city girls at all. Fortunately, you broke up early, otherwise, I'm afraid I would be angered to death if you married her." Ashley Johnson was, of course, not a city girl. She was an orphan and had only lived in the city with her aunt and uncle since she was a child. Living under someone else's roof, she inevitably had a somewhat extreme personality. Even after dating her for 8 years, there were many times when I couldn't understand her. I used to treat these as a sense of novelty, but now that I think about it, she was just deliberately disguising and suppressing herself. "Mom, although I was laid off, I can start over again. A company has already contacted me, and the salary is no worse than managing my own company, and I don't have to worry about profits and losses, which is much easier. There was indeed a new company, but I was still in the process of investigating it, and I could only pretend to be doing well in front of them. But they didn't think so. They always thought that it was more promising to be their boss, and that working for others would never lead to success, and it wouldn't be so decent to say it. You're already 27 years old, and you still think you're a young man who dares to break through and fight? After that little bitch Ashley Johnson called me, I found a wealthy only daughter for you. The other party's parents are in business and have also relocated their households. They also have several buildings in the city. It's just that she's a bit older, just turned 33, but as the saying goes, a woman is 3 years older. She holds a golden brick, and you're holding 2 golden bricks, so you're making a big profit. I breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out that they wanted to arrange a blind date for me. I was about to agree when my mother continued, "Your dad and I are going to marry you into their family, and that's the other party's only requirement. They're also willing to give a dowry of 1 million and also give a building in the city. These conditions aren't great. As long as you marry into their family, you can work 30 years less." A few of them looked at me with shining eyes, with a look of "we're all doing this for your good." The smile on my face froze. As the eldest son in the family, did they want me to marry into their family in exchange for a dowry? My face darkened. "Dad, Mom, since the other party's conditions are so good, why don't you let Daniel Brown go? He's also 24 years old this year, and he's holding 3 golden bricks. Wouldn't that be even better? What's more, he hasn't gone to the workplace for 2 years since he graduated, and he's just mooching off the family every day. Wouldn't it be better to marry him out?" The faces of my parents, who were smiling like chrysanthemums, froze, and Daniel Brown also went ballistic. "David Smith, stop talking nonsense here. As the eldest son, you must give everything for this family." My parents also agreed. "Yes, David, you have to learn to take care of your brother. You're more stable than Daniel, and you're more suitable to marry into their family." Seeing the 3 of them united against a common enemy, I felt like an outsider once again. I sneered, "I will not marry into the family. My marriage is none of your business. Since I'm not welcome in this family, there's no need for me to stay." My gaze swept over them, and I stood up, pulling my suitcase towards the door. What illusions was I still harboring? In this family, I was always redundant. Just as I stepped out of the door, my father's furious voice came from behind. "David Smith, what's your attitude? If you dare to walk out this door today, don't ever come back. We'll pretend we don't have a son like you." I paused, tilting my head slightly. Whatever. This isn't my hometown anyway. Without a warm hometown, it's all the same, there's no difference. A few steps further, a Land Rover stopped in front of me. A burly woman with a fleshy face stepped out from the back seat. Her eyes lit up the moment she saw me. After looking me up and down, the glint in her eyes intensified. "You're David Smith, right? I'm Bertha Green, and I'm going to be your future wife." Me? Before my brain could fully process, the people inside came out to greet her. "Bertha, come in, come in. David, you come in, too. This is the girl we were just talking about." The fingers gripping the handle of my suitcase tightened slightly. Just as I was about to ignore them and continue walking, 2 black-suited bodyguards got out of the car, blocked my path, and pushed me back into the living room. I was pushed onto the sofa, with Bertha Green sitting right next to me. Her thick, greasy hand touched my face, her eyes filled with infatuation. "You're so handsome, David. You're exactly what I've always wanted. Uncle Jiang, I'll add another $200,000 to the dowry. I want to consummate the marriage today." The people opposite us were stunned for a moment, then burst into smiles. Okay, we'll arrange it right away. We'll make sure Bertha is satisfied. No one asked for my opinion, it was decided just like that. I slapped Bertha Green's hand away, stood up from the sofa, and said with some impatience, I don't agree. Mom, Dad, I'm not merchandise. Miss Wu, I don't like you. Everyone present changed their expression, but Bertha Green smiled radiantly. It doesn't matter, I like you, that's enough. Peter, take him to the room and give him a shot. I want to have him now. She patted my face. Once we consummate the marriage, let's see how you resist. 2 bodyguards stepped forward and restrained me, about to drag me into the room. I struggled with all my might, abandoning my suitcase and running outside. I was caught after only a few steps and forced to kneel in front of Bertha Green. She squatted down, pinched my chin, and slapped me twice across the face, her tone fierce. I like obedient ones. If you run again, believe me, I'll break your legs. The bodyguards were incredibly strong. I couldn't break free at all and could only glare at her hatefully. I was dragged into the room, and the bodyguards pinned me to the bed in a spread eagle position. Bertha Green had already started taking off her clothes. Her full, fleshy body and lewd expression made me want to vomit. Just when I thought I was done for, the door was kicked open. Bastards! Who dares to touch my grandson? 2 rows of black-suited bodyguards stood on either side, and an old man with a dragon-headed cane walked slowly in between. Bertha Green roared impatiently, which lowlife dares to? When her eyes landed on the person who came, she didn't even bother to put on her clothes and knelt with a thud, a look of panic on her face. And Mr. Jiang, why are you here? The old man raised his cane and struck accurately, knocking the 2 holding me down to the ground. He pulled me up from the bed and embraced me tightly, his voice choked with sobs. My dear grandson, Grandpa has finally found you. I was the long-lost eldest grandson of the Sunny Group. Chad Thompson was just an illegitimate child from a collateral branch. My parents panicked when they learned the old man's identity. Years ago, my biological mother fought with my father and, in a fit of anger, took me to the countryside to relax. She went out to pick some vegetables, and I disappeared. The person who took me away was Mrs. Jiang, who was emotionally unstable after losing her eldest son. I was hidden away, and the Jiang family searched all of Sunnyville but couldn't find me. But Mrs. Jiang was very unstable at that time, and she didn't remember where she had taken me. Mr. Jiang asked her, but she couldn't say, and in the end, they just thought I was an abandoned child. The reason the Jiang family was able to find me was all thanks to the roommate ad I posted on eBay classified/OfferUp. Just as I was about to leave, someone wanted to see the room that afternoon, and I asked the landlord for a favor. The boy who came to see the room was the Jiang family's youngest son, who had run away from home after a fight with Mr. Jiang. He saw the photo frame I had in the living room and thought I looked familiar. Out of curiosity, he took my toothbrush to do a DNA test. It turned out that he and I were indeed brothers, and after asking the landlord for my hometown address, he excitedly returned to the family estate and told Grandpa. Seeing my photo, Grandpa immediately took him and left. As luck would have it, they arrived just in time to stop Bertha Green's violence. The boy, who looked 7 or 8 years younger than me, sized me up curiously before throwing himself at me with a big hug. Brother! No wonder I never felt that close to Daniel Brown. It turned out we weren't brothers at all. But this boy, I liked him at first sight. He showed me the greatest kindness. Perhaps this is the kinship that is thicker than water. The events of that year were thoroughly investigated, and Mrs. Jiang was sent to the police station to await questioning. Bertha Green's attempted assault couldn't be prosecuted. But the Sunny Group could attack her family's business, and on the way back to the family estate with Grandpa, Bertha Green's family went bankrupt. Grandpa planned to arrange a welcome home banquet for me before Christmas/New Year, but I stopped him. In the eyes of outsiders, Chad Thompson was the heir of Jiang Hai. I wanted to see how interesting it would be after he was exposed. A week after I left the office, Ashley Johnson couldn't hold on any longer. Most of the company's projects were originally negotiated by me, and those clients were only willing to work with me. After she replaced me, their attitudes changed, and they weren't very cooperative. Ashley Johnson laid off those hardworking employees and replaced them with a bunch of Chad Thompson's cronies. They didn't know how to do projects, pretended to understand, and had bad tempers, which directly offended the clients. The plan was revised 800 times, but still didn't pass. With the deadline approaching, the project wasn't even close to being finished. In just 1 week, many clients were threatening to terminate their contracts. Ashley Johnson couldn't find suitable people and kept dragging it out, and was finally sued. The court ordered her to deliver the results as scheduled within the deadline, otherwise, she would be in breach of contract, and she would have to pay the relevant damages. She finally realized what a stupid thing she had done. After failing to ask Chad Thompson for help, she called those laid-off employees and offered them twice their salary to come back. But everyone knew the company's situation, and no one was willing to go back and clean up the mess. After all, things had come to this, and it was almost Christmas/New Year, and no one wanted to go back and overwork themselves to death. Unable to find anyone, Ashley Johnson was in a panic and finally swallowed her pride and asked me for help. After I humiliated her severely, she completely gave up and prepared to transfer the company to cut her losses in time. When the time was right, I made my move. I had Ethan White, the second young master of the Jiang family, come forward and acquire Ashley Johnson's company. On the day of the signing ceremony, it was I who went. Wanting to give Ashley Johnson and the others a surprise, I went to the office alone in advance, and the legal assistants would arrive later. Perhaps in preparation for today's signing ceremony, the company door wasn't closed, so I walked in openly. The receptionist recognized me and stopped me arrogantly. "David Smith, what are you doing back here? Get out of here, lest you upset Ms. Lin. The people from the Sunny Group will be here later. Can you afford the responsibility if you offend someone important?" I raised my eyebrows slightly. When I was Mr. Jiang, her attitude towards me wasn't like this. She smiled sweetly, and her voice was coquettish. But now, if it weren't for the same face, I would have suspected she was a different person. "Myra, I'm looking for Ashley Johnson." I thought I was polite enough, but she looked at me with disdain. "You're a good-for-nothing who was kicked out of the company. What qualifications do you have to see Ms. Lin? Get out of here. Don't get in the way." As she spoke, she called the security guard downstairs. Many of the employees who passed by were familiar faces. When they saw me, they didn't say hello and walked away quickly with their heads down, afraid of being stopped by me and getting involved. I sighed softly, looking straight at the receptionist. "Are you not going to let me in? Myra, if you don't report me and drive me away now, even if you beg me to come back later, I won't pay you any attention." "Oh, what a big mouth, David Smith. Where do you get the nerve? You didn't learn anything else after being kicked out of the company, but you learned how to act tough, huh?" Ashley Johnson, holding Chad Thompson's arm, walked towards us, swaying gracefully. Even though she had applied several layers of powder on her face, I could still see the fatigue in her eyes. She hasn't had a good few days, has she? It's good that she hasn't. Ashley Johnson, you'll know whether I'm acting tough or not later. I looked around, clicking my tongue, and looked at her meaningfully. This company really can't do without me. It hasn't even been half a month, and you've bankrupted it? Ashley Johnson, let me give you a piece of advice. Don't take on porcelain work if you don't have diamond tools. She gritted her teeth in anger, let go of Chad Thompson, and was about to rush up and hit me, but I grabbed her and pushed her back hard. Chad Thompson didn't hold her, letting her fall to the ground on her back. Ashley Johnson, before you hit someone, first weigh whether you can win. It's you who will be humiliated. She scrambled up from the ground, and Chad Thompson quickly pulled her up. As expected of a Monday morning quarterback, he didn't reach out just now, but now he's protecting her in his arms, and his hands are restless, seemingly trying to show off to me. David Smith, you're no longer an employee of our company. How dare you break in and commit violence? Are you not afraid of us sending you in? I crossed my arms and looked at him with interest. What violence did I commit? Didn't Ashley Johnson rush up to hit me first? All I know is that a guest should be treated as a guest. You two at Johnson Thompson Advertising are being ignorant. I'm teaching you how to behave. Chad Thompson wanted to say something, but I covered my mouth slightly, pretending to be surprised and puzzled. Isn't Mr. Jiang the heir of Jiang Hai? How come Johnson Thompson Advertising would be acquired by Jiang Hai? You, the heir, are a bit useless. These words were a bit intriguing. Chad Thompson's face on the opposite side was a little ugly, but Ashley Johnson looked resentful. David Smith, stop talking nonsense here. Chad has just returned to his family. There are still many people in the family who don't accept him. It will be fine after a while. Chad is the only son in the Jiang family, and the entire Jiang Hai will be his in the future. Otherwise, why do you think I sold Johnson Thompson Advertising to Jiang Hai? I touched my chin, trying to control the corners of my mouth that I couldn't suppress. So that's how it is. I was wondering why Ashley Johnson would agree to be acquired at a low price. It turned out she had this idea in mind. Chad Thompson is also a ruthless person. For the sake of his face, he refused to tell her the truth and just watched her lose money. Another large group also wanted to acquire Johnson Thompson Advertising, and the price was several points higher than Jiang Hai's. I was originally prepared to raise the price, but Ashley Johnson chose us in the end. This is very interesting. If Ashley Johnson finds out Chad Thompson's true identity in the end, and knows that he ultimately achieved nothing, I wonder what her expression will be. After all, if she had chosen another company, she would have been able to pay off her debts and still have a few $100,000 left after selling the company. By choosing Jiang Hai, she may not even be able to pay off her debts. Then I wish you good luck, Ashley Johnson. I hope you won't regret your choice. I left the company and met the legal team, who came to sign the contract downstairs. Ethan White was also there. I said a few words to him, and then he took the legal team to Johnson Thompson Advertising, and I stayed downstairs. An hour later, Ethan White sent me a message. Bro, the contract is signed. Come up. I smiled knowingly, adjusted my collar, and stepped into the elevator. A group of people stood neatly at the door. Seeing me appear, Ashley Johnson's face was a little ugly. David Smith, why are you here again? Get out of here, I don't have time to argue with you. Before I could speak, Ethan White greeted me. Bro! Everyone at Johnson Thompson Advertising's face changed drastically. I smiled, my eyes full of mockery. Ashley Johnson, let me reintroduce myself. I am David Smith, the general manager of Sunny Group, and also the heir of Jiang Hai. Her eyes widened, and Chad Thompson, standing next to her, turned pale instantly. David Smith, what are you kidding about? You're the heir of Jiang Hai, then what is Chad? Ethan White chuckled, mocking. Just an illegitimate child from my uncle's family. Only a bunch of you idiots were fooled. Ashley Johnson swayed, her eyes full of disbelief. She clung to Chad Thompson's shoulders, her voice trembling. Chad, they're lying to me, right? This is your test for me. Right? I won't give up on you. No matter who you are, I will love you, only you. Chad Thompson's eyes lit up, and he tentatively opened his mouth. Really? Ashley Johnson nodded firmly, but her eyes were filled with desperate panic and unease. Her acting has begun again. Chad Thompson looked at us, looked around, and finally landed on her. Ashley, they're right. I'm not the heir of Jianghai, but the illegitimate son of the eldest son. But Ashley, don't worry. Although I'm an illegitimate son, my dad only has one child, so everything he has will be mine in the future. As long as you marry me, everything I have is yours. His eyes were full of hope, but the light in Ashley Johnson's eyes dimmed. She let go of his shoulders, staggered back, and shook her head frantically. No, it shouldn't be like this. How can you not be the heir? How can it be David Smith? If he's the heir, then why did I abandon him to be with you? What was it all for? Chad Thompson also heard the meaning in her words, and his face turned pale in an instant. Perhaps he has some sincerity towards Ashley Johnson, but only she knows what Ashley Johnson loves. The matter was settled, and Johnson Thompson Advertising finally returned to my hands. I made major changes to the company. After this incident, all those who were opportunistic and two-faced surfaced, and I knew who they were. I laid off most of the people, leaving behind a few who remained neutral but were efficient, and I rehired all those who had been laid off before. We will still be expanding after Christmas/New Year, but this time I will keep my eyes open. Grandpa proposed to hold a welcome home banquet for me again, and I agreed. Ashley Johnson followed Chad Thompson in. When I was announced as the heir of Jianghai, she rushed to the stage and knelt straight in front of me. David, I was wrong. Can we go back to the beginning? 8 years of relationship. Have you let it all go? David, I just realized now that I love you. It has always been you. She cried, looking pitiful, but my heart was as still as water. In the past, I would have felt sorry for her even if she shed a single tear. But now, even if she killed herself in front of me to show her sincerity, I wouldn't waver. After all, I have a better girl by my side. Annie is back, with her big shot father. I looked down at the stage, and Annie immediately understood, stepped onto the stage, stood next to me, and intertwined her fingers with mine. Ashley Johnson, everything today is your own choice. In her shocked eyes, I publicly announced my engagement to Annie. I thought she would be my final destination and never looked at the people around me. In fact, in a corner I didn't know, Annie had silently loved me for many years. I carried her entire youth, from freshman year until now. After the welcome home banquet, Chad Thompson, under the pressure of his uncle, abandoned Ashley Johnson. Burdened with debt and with no way out, she ultimately chose to marry an old man.